Today we're talking about solving two-step equations. What we've learned up to this point is basically solving one-step equations. Now we've solved using multiplication and division, and we've also solved using addition and subtraction. And with this lesson, we're actually putting those things together. So it's not anything new. It's just putting together things we've already done to solve an equation that's just a little more complicated than ones we've seen before. So if we look at these first few that I've got here, this first one here, I've got 4x plus 1 equals 5. And let me make sure I've got some kind of marker here to write with. Okay, so what I have here is on the variable side, I've got this 4 and I've got this 1 that has to go away. Okay, if I'm solving the equation, I must get rid of all the things with x. Once those things are gone, we've got what x equals, okay? So we got a 4 and a 1 to get rid of. The thing you have to get rid of first is whatever is added or subtracted. So I call this kind of, it's like in chemistry where you have stronger bonds and bonds that aren't as strong. I think of addition and subtraction as a looser bond, whereas multiplication and division is a stronger bond that has to be dealt with last. So we deal with the easy stuff first, and I sure don't want to mark all this stuff up. And I'm doing this as we speak here. Let me get out of that. Okay, so I want to get rid of the 4 and the 1. So the first step here, because 1 is positive, I want to subtract 1. Okay, and I'm going to do that from both sides of the equal sign. I kind of like to draw a little line down this way. Okay, so this cancels, and I get 4x equals 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay, now we're to another step that we know how to do. We've got a bond here that's multiplication 4 times x. I want to separate these two. I want to get rid of the 4. So I have to do the opposite, which is divide by 4. And if I do that, 4 over 4 becomes 1. And 4 over 4 here is equal to 1, not 0, as some people like to say. It is 1, okay? This is never 0. Unless there's a 0 in the numerator, our fraction is not 0, okay? Let's look at the next one. I've got to get rid of this 3 and this 8, okay? So I want to get rid of the weaker bond first, the thing that's added. So I'm going to do the opposite. It's positive 8, so I want to subtract it. And I subtract 8 from both sides. I get positive 2, negative 8. That gives me a negative 6. Got an equal sign here. And then this cancels, and I get 3y. Okay, now I've got 3y equals negative 6. This is multiplication. So I need to divide by 3 to undo that. And I get y is equal to negative 2. Okay, next one. Let's do our little line to the equal sign. I'm getting rid of this 2, and I'm getting rid of this 9. Okay, I'm getting rid of this thing first, the 9. It's a positive, so I subtract. Okay, and I do that from both sides. That gives me 1 plus negative 9, which is negative 8. I've got an equal sign. That cancels. I get 2x here. Okay, now I divide by 2, and I get negative 4 is x. Okay, and again, we kind of like switching the order and writing x equals negative 4 because that's more logical to say. Let's do this last one here. Draw the line. We get 6x plus 20 is equal to 2. I'm going to get rid of the 20 first. So I subtract 20 from both sides. Okay, so I've got positive 2 and negative 20. That's negative 18. This cancels, and I've got 6x. Okay, divide by 6. Divide by 6. I get x equals negative 3. Okay, and let's turn that around. So that's more logical. Okay, and again, I want to see these steps just like I've done them up here, probably neater than I've done them up here. But I want to see these steps on your paper. I want to see the step where we're subtracting here. I want to see the step in the new equation, then division. I want to see all this on your paper. Okay, we're going to do it down, not across, but down. Okay, and at the bottom we'll have our answer. Then because we've got all this work, we probably need to circle our answer to make it stand out. Let's look at the next page. Now these involve division, but still, it's stuff you've already done. Let's look here. I've got to get rid of this 4 and this negative 8. Okay, to do that, I need to do the opposite, which is add 8. I want to do that first because that's the first thing we always get rid of, whatever's added or subtracted. Okay, that gives me 9 over here, and I get x over 4 over here. Okay, now look what's happening between the x and the 4. That is division. So to undo division, I need to use multiplication. So I multiply what it's being divided by. These 4's become 1. It cancels out. I get x equals 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, good. Let's look at this one. Okay, I've got a -1 to get rid of, and I got a 4 to get rid of. Let's get rid of the -1 first. We always want to do addition, subtraction before we do multiplication or division. Okay, let's add 1 to both sides because 1 is negative. That gives me 3 equals x over 4. Okay, now this going on between the x and the 4 is division. So the opposite of division is multiplication. And then we want to multiply both sides by 4 to get rid of that 4. So that's 12 equals, the 4's cancel, they become 1. I get x equals 12. So we actually want to write it like this. It's a little more logical. Okay, let's do one more. Again, I've got -8 here. It's a -8. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Add 8 to both sides. Okay, so 12 plus 8, well, that is 20. Didn't draw my line down here. Okay, this cancels. I get x over 4 equals 20. Well, this is division, so the opposite or the inverse is multiplication. Multiply by 4, I get 80 equals x over 4. Last step. Wait, sorry. That 4 canceled. Kind of getting sleepy. X equals 80. So let's turn that around like that. X equals 80 and circle it. Okay, next page. Here's a couple where the x is actually negative. Let's look at this first one. Actually, let's look at the second. We're not going to do all of them. I want to get rid of the 6 and then the -2 here. Well, this is multiplication, so I want to do that last. Okay, I want to get rid of the 6 first. So it's a +6. I don't care what the sign is. The 6 is positive. And that's what tells me what to do. If 6 is positive, I don't want to add it, because if I add 6 to a +6, I get 12. And that's going to put us in a bigger problem than what we started with. So we actually need to subtract 6. Okay, subtract 6 there, subtract 6 from the other side of the equal sign. Okay, this goes away, I get -2x equals 2. Last step, divide by -2. And it's both sides negative. I get x equals -1. Okay, let's do one more. Here, I've got a 5 and a -x. Well, I want to get rid of the 5. Okay, and it is a +5, even though this is minus, this is a +5. So I need to subtract. So I subtract 5 here, subtract 5 here. That goes away, I get -x equals, this is -7. Okay, I don't want to know what -x equals, I want to know what +x equals. So the easy thing to do is, since we've got, we can, mathematically, what we would do is multiply each side by -1. But again, what you do on one side, you do on the other. So if I change the sign on the x, I need to change the sign on the other side. So x equals 7. And circle it. Okay. And in the case where we actually have a fraction that kind of looks like this, if we got -x over 3 equals 15, well, there are two things I want to get rid of here to solve for x. I want to get rid of this 3, and I also want to get rid of this negative. Okay, the negative, it's not necessarily on the x or the 3, it's just a negative fraction. So I want to get rid of the negative, and if I multiply a negative by a negative, that gives me a positive. So what I'm going to multiply is not a +3, but a -3. Okay, and if I multiply each side by -3, well, these two negatives make positive, which is what we want, and the 3's cancel. So these make a positive, I get a positive x, and over here I get a -45. Okay, and that's what we want. We wanted the negative to go away because we don't want to know what -x is. And then, so we just got rid of it by multiplying by another negative, because two negatives, when we multiply, make a positive. Okay, I think there's one more page. Yes, let's look at a word problem. We looked at this in class, but just to help us remember, this is a basic word problem, basic linear word problem, where we have something like a rate, we have like a total, we have a payment, one-time fee or payment with this. And we always have to look and see what it's asking, and that's what the variable equals. Okay, we always assign a variable to something, and it's the unknown. And in this case, it's what they're asking for. You can pay the remaining costs in 3 equal monthly payments with no interest charged. How much is each monthly payment? Okay, well, each monthly payment has to be our variable. We're going to call that x. Okay, so that's what we're looking for, each monthly payment. Okay, so we got to pick out some of the stuff from this word problem that's going to help us solve. This, you're buying a drum set that costs $4.95, is a total. That's how much the whole thing cost. And generally totals, for the most part, go by themselves on one side of the equal sign. Now what's going to go over here is actually going to add to be that total. Okay, so the music store lets you make a down payment of 150. Well, that goes toward the total. That's 150 here. That's added toward the total, so we're going to add that. And we have 3 monthly payments of how many dollars? Well, we don't know. It's X dollars. So 3, anytime you're doing the same thing over and over again, you've got a rate. These things have to be multiplied, okay? So I have 3 of these. I'm going to multiply 3 times X. And that gives me, of course, I got a little space here, but that gives me an equation I can solve to find out what X is. Well, we got a 150 to get rid of. We got a 3 to get rid of. Let's subtract 150 from both sides. Okay, that gives me, this cancels. I get 3x equals, this is 5, this is 4, and this is 3. Last step, divide by 3, and that gives me x, let's do it over here. X equals 1, 1, 5, and that's money. So that is dollars. X equals $115. So we have 3 payments of $115, 1 down payment of $150, and that should equal $495. That is a basic linear word problem. We will see that over and over again in this class. So again, we're picking out totals, we're picking out rates, things we multiply together, and we're picking out a one-time fee or one-time cost associated with the total. And that will do it for two-step equations.